Hello, everybody, and happy Tuesday. I'm Dr. Laura Dabney, relationship psychiatrist, coming to you live. And I usually talk about intimate relationships between, obviously, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife type of things. But this month, we're talking about parenting, the toughest job you'll never be thanked for. And this has brought up a lot of comments and a lot of talk around here, so that's all good. So I thought we would continue on from last week and talk this time about self-esteem. There's a lot of people come in with the wrong impression of what good parenting is, thinking that it's going to create a great person or a great relationship, and in fact, these methods hurt your child's self-esteem or keeps the self-esteem from growing. So although helping executive men with their intimate relationships is my thing, as I've told you here several times, and I'll just keep saying it, this is my way of helping anybody who is having emotional problems, relationship struggles of any kind. This is a way to make you feel more comfortable, give you some help until you're ready to come in, pick up the phone, call, email, however you reach out to us, all right? And I also do, when the men come in about relationship problems, oftentimes it is with an adolescent child or a young adult child. So that's where I've gotten all this information, synthesizing it all for you here today in this month. So the parenting techniques that seem good to some people or seem good on the surface that really aren't, start with the good soldier technique. Maybe because we're in a military community, I don't know, but there are a lot of parents who think that the child who is obedient, the yes sir, no sir type, that's a good kid right there. And there's nothing wrong with bad manners. I'm not saying, and manners is something you need to teach a child for sure. But an obedient child is not a good child. I actually cringe when somebody comes in and the child's in college and they've been A-okay the whole time, because that means the child has not been able to practice the other thing that they need to be well-developed human beings that can be in a relationship, and that is their aggressive skills, okay? By insisting they be obedient, you're giving them one skill, okay? And that is to learn how to be passive, humble, to learn to take direction. All those things are important, but what about being the leader, the authority figure, the one who gives direction? How can they learn that if you don't practice that with them also? All right. I hear so much of this obedience part is they have to respect me. They have to respect me. That somehow if the child has their own idea, their own way of doing things, or if they're disobedient, that somehow they don't respect the parent. A child, first of all, like anybody else, you have to earn their respect. But more importantly, the question is, why don't they respect you? Okay, that's the question you should be asking yourself. What's going on? Why is he acting out? That's so much more valuable than just keep trying to shove your way and your stuff down his throat. Okay. Helping the child, letting the child have their own way, give you a little guff, a little pushback, is healthy for that child. That is where they get their self-esteem. All right? There's no self-esteem. What self-esteem is involved in saying, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, whatever you say? There's no self-esteem in that. It takes some self-esteem, some guts, some bravery to say, you know what, that just doesn't work for me. I understand what you did, but it doesn't work for me. Okay, you got to let them have a little bit of that. You got to lose once in a while. This is really great when your child becomes an athlete in a sport that you've never done, or maybe you used to do. Play that sport with the child. Let them win, let them beat you, okay? Let them know when you're wrong, okay? Being able to admit you're wrong and letting your child see that, so valuable. This is the whole flip side, okay, to the passive, I'll do whatever you say, I'll take orders as if I'm in the military. They're not in the military, all right? This is totally different than the military. Our family is not the military. You cannot superimpose what you learned in the military or what someone else, what you think the military is, because when you get into the military, you're 18. This child, you're developing this child well before they're 18, when they're first born. They're 18, they've already learned, hopefully, from good parenting, how to take orders and, when and how to take orders, when and how to give some kickback, some pushback, right? They should have already developed these things. If you do this, this is your parenting technique, you're missing out on teaching your child the other side, the other half of the equation. Plus, in losing, in admitting you're wrong, in graciously accepting some opposing views or pushback, you're showing your child how to do that. You're demonstrating for yourself how your child should behave when they're faced with somebody who's pushing back, has a different viewpoint. Right? You have to show them both sides of the coin so they can learn both sides of the coin. Make sense? Okay. That's where they get their self-esteem, from being able to say, hey, I beat him and I feel pretty good about that. I told him out another way I want to do this, and that makes me feel good. That's self-esteem. Okay. The other parenting technique that seems so lovely on the surface but isn't is feathering the nest. Okay. That's been gotten a lot of media attention with the whole adult kids living at home. But let's take that a little bit further, because people, as a parent, when your child hurts, you hurt. I get it. I've been there. As I mentioned before, I have 2 adult children now. I know how much that hurts. So it's a little self-centered sometimes when you try to, you look like you're helping the child, but you're really just solving the pain for yourself. Okay? It's not always the best thing to do. Again, we're back to balance. If you don't let your kids struggle with something, if you step in to solve every problem, give them everything, that keeps them from having the pain that's necessary to make changes in their life and to reach for something and to obtain it. Okay? Feathering the nest, it's tricky, because when you give them something and you solve the pain, they're like, oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Oh, and it feels like a really warm and fuzzy place. And wow, he's always going to remember that. And she's going to give that back to me one day. It's not how it works. Okay, that's short-lived. And again, that's just half of the equation. There are times to step in, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But if you're always stepping in, never letting them have the pain, then they don't get to develop the self-esteem to work through a problem. Think about this. How many times have you had a algebra problem you couldn't figure out in class, and then suddenly you figured it out? It felt so good. When you wanted to take on an exercise program or learn a new skill, oh God, it's so painful, it's so difficult. But when you solve it, that's where self-esteem develops. What about when you stroked that check for your first fancy car or your first mortgage check and you did it yourself? It's huge. I beg my patients, don't take that away from your child. Don't rob them. If you have males or even females, it's emasculating. You're sort of saying it's a message you can't do it. I don't believe in you. Okay. I've got to save you. I've got to save you either for myself to ease my own pain or because I don't really believe you can do it. So you're undermining them as well. All right. When you give them the pain, let them have the pain, let them work through it, let them figure it out. Yes, they may whine, they may complain, they may look dejected and down. It's a little bit like the best example I can use is when they're learning to tie their shoes. Okay. They absolutely have no idea. You have to step in. But then they start and they struggle. Watch when they struggle. Don't jump in because they may be able to figure it out, right? Or may have another way of doing it even. That's even better. And you'll have missed it. You'll have robbed them of that possibility if you step in there. Now, the exception is if you're watching and they get more and more frustrated to the point where they sort of melt down. I don't just mean have an emotion here. I mean actually stop being able to function. That's when you step in. And as the child gets older and older and older, you step in a little differently. Either you step in and you take it over when they're little, but when they're older, you step in by saying, what's your plan? Do you need some assistance? You ask, right? Haven't you had somebody come in and say, okay, you can't deal with that. I got it. When you had a plan, it's very annoying. Don't do that to your older child. Ask them, step in, watch. You want to be more of a safety net now for big problems than stepping in for every little problem. Okay. That'll help their self-esteem tremendously. Okay, lastly, sort of the opposite is giving a child too much space. I've talked in here about this. We've talked about this a lot. Giving a child space is a good thing. We just talked about that, right? Giving space to make mistakes, figuring it out, going through the pain. But there's some distancing techniques that parents sometimes kid themselves is giving them space when it's actually not. It's actually hurting them and their self-esteem. So let me give you an example. We've come a long way actually as parents. We now know physical distancing isn't the best idea. I see dads making great strides to try to be there for all kinds of things. So physically, we're more on top of that, which is a good thing. But there's some symbolic and emotional distancing that parents do that, again, seems kind of good on the surface, but really isn't. Let me give some common examples. So either being their best friend, right? That's a common one. Talking about your problems with your child, revealing problems with them and discussing them with them. Giving your responsibilities to your child, turning over parenting responsibilities to them. All right. These are ways that, and then not stepping in when you see a meltdown, like we just talked. Okay. When something is dangerous going on and you're not stepping in. Those are the 4 ways that you are abdicating. Okay, get that? You're leaving the parental throne, your parental position. Now, here again, children can look like this is a good thing. They've pushed you aside either with fear or they've said, oh, how wonderful that you're my best friend. So you can't go, you have to have you're the adult, you have to have the bigger picture, the bigger vision, and understand that this way you're stepping out of position is not good. All children, no matter what their age, want their parents to be in control, want their parents to be good, safe, in charge, right? You're on a cruise ship, and you don't want to hear all the problems that the captain's having. Oh, we have to detour here because there's an iceberg over there or a big, huge rock over there, and we got to go around it. And you don't want to hear all that. You just want to hear, we're going to be there at this time. You're trusting that they're dealing with all the problems. You want them to be in charge while you're being a kid while you're having fun and doing your thing, right? Okay, your kid is the same way. It gives them the safe space if you stay in place. They don't need you as a friend. They really don't. They have the opportunity to have lots of friends. They have friends. 1 or 2 parents. 2 parents, I guess, technically. But even if you're a single parent, they have you. If you have another parent, they still need you. They need a mom. They want a mom and a dad. They want the captains solidly in place. Don't talk about your problems with them. They're not your friend. That's treating them as if they're a friend and not letting them have the freedom to do their own thing without worrying about your problems. If they suspect you have a problem, you can be honest and say, yes, we're having a problem with that, but I've got it. You don't have to worry about this. This is not for you. I'm taking care of it. Okay, that's a way to let them know, be honest, and let them know that you got it. Okay, if they're doing something dangerous and you don't rescue them from that, that's your primary goal. It's like your only goal by the time the kid is in their teens and early adulthood. You step in a legal issue or something that's of physical harm to themselves or somebody else. I just had this talk with a parent. They were all concerned because their son has been doing drugs, and they have been watching for 2 years, knowing that the kid is still going to the school they're paying for, knowing the kid's still driving the car that they're paying for. No. Kids doing drugs, you take away the car. And if they're not doing their schoolwork, or certainly not, or this kid's going to school high, you take that away, right? That's your job. They're so afraid they're being mean or damaging, and that is all off the table. You can rebuild afterwards, but you got to step in there and get that kid safe. Okay? And you don't give your responsibilities to your kid. It's just another way of abdicating your role. You're making them the parent. See this all the time. They have their kids cook and clean and take care of the younger ones. If you have your kids babysitting, make it a job. Give them money for it, so it doesn't become your ditching your role. But better yet, get other people, pay other professionals to do those jobs. The babysitting, the lawn care, and that kind of thing. Yes, they have to have some responsibilities, but it's very different when you're giving them responsibilities to build their self-esteem and give them chores and jobs and ways to get things done. But it's different if you are lazy or don't want to do it and you're just ditching it over to them. All right, so be very careful about that. All right, those are the way we build self-esteem in kids. Do not fall for those. Maybe you were raised that way, and you think, well, I'm okay, so it can't be that bad. We're evolving. We're an evolving species. If you want to be evolving, want to learn and take in, don't let that stop you from realizing maybe you're the exception. Maybe some things didn't go as well as you remember, but too much distance from your child, abdicating your place, being a good soldier, or making them a good soldier, or feathering the nest. Not good ideas. Okay. Catch you next time. We'll talk next week more about parenting. And I think that's the last week we have in January. So catch you then. If any we can help you in any way, 757-340-8800. Be glad to talk to any one of you about any problems you're having in this regard or anything else. Take care.